Hello, I'm Aaron Nightingale, owner of Nightingale LED Solutions and co-owner of the LED Costume Academy. I've been in the art of wearable electronics for 10 years with Las Vegas shows such as Cirque du Soleil MJ1, Chris Angel Mind Freak, and Light Balance for Luxor's America's Got Talent Superstars Live, as well as oversaw installation of elements at Meow Wolf's Omega Mart. I've also designed and created countless other LED lighting costumes and props, such as the Bebop robot with scrolling LED marquee chest plate, dynamic dresses for Circus Couture, an LED boombox for I Love the 90s show, LED Star Wars comic book cover, LED Surrey bikes for Burning Man, and LED marching drums for the Pack Drum line. Today, some are job specific. The types and pricing of each depends on your experience, the task to accomplish, and your budget. For instance, if you're just starting out, or you plan to use it all the time, day after day, will help you decide which is the right tool for your application. If you click on the link below, it will take you to my Amazon storefront, which will have most of these options available. And if you want to catch more content and how-to tutorials, please make sure you subscribe and click the bell for alerts on the next video. First, work surfaces. Workbench, desk, tables. You want a sturdy platform with space for all your tools to be accessible. This will depend on where you're doing the bulk of your work and what you will be working on. A garage or shop workbench, office desk for crafting and modeling, or folding table in road cases if you'll be working in multiple locations. Make sure you also have access to power and good ventilation. A lot of people set up an area to solder that is hidden away from your living space and may convert a small room or closet. That may not be the best option, as it may not have proper ventilation for any fumes, especially leaded solder. You want to make sure that you have enough power for all your electronics, and a power strip is a good way to ensure that you turn off your heated elements off between sessions. The last thing you'd want to do is forget and start a fire. Second, protecting the surfaces. Cutting mat, silicone heat mat for your desk, or even a silicone pot holder, which I use to protect wearables. You'll want additional protection for your work surface as well as protecting your pieces. These can also prevent burns or fires should your soldering iron slip off the holder. Third, safety. Safety glasses, fume extractor, which has a carbon filter, finger guards, and a soldering iron holder that securely holds your iron. The first rule of soldering safety is safety glasses. The last thing you want to happen is hot solder splattering in your eyes or while trimming wires. A fragment flies in an undesired direction and gets lodged in your eye, especially if it's copper, cannot easily be removed. I highly recommend a fume extractor, especially if you're using a leaded solder. However, unleaded solder creates up to 250 times more airborne particles than leaded solder. While handling lead solder is generally safe, you'll want to limit breathing fumes, especially if you'll be soldering long term. You want to make sure you don't eat while handling the solder and wash your hands after every session. You'll want a solid and secure iron holder if your soldering iron didn't come with one. I don't rely on the flimsy stamped sheet metal ones, so for about $10 you can get a stand with a sponge and copper tip cleaner. A good pair of helping hands or octopus holders can prevent burns. See a little later in this video for more details on those. I also recommend silicone finger guards to protect your fingers for detailed work and quick fixes, and I bought a silicone trave to protect wearables from both the iron and heat guns. Fourth, seeing your work. Task lights and magnifying glass can come in varying brightnesses and color temperature. Fifth, soldering iron types. Soldering pencil, soldering station, and rework station, as well as battery options. You can find soldering pencil or iron in various wattage ranges. I recommend an adjustable temperature, and you'll want to try to find UL listed. Soldering stations have much more precision temperature adjustment and heat back up more rapidly after placing in the cradle. Additionally, many of these units feature automatic shutoff and additional safety features. Rework stations combine soldering iron, hot air gun, and frequently low voltage power supplies. The hot air rework is especially useful if you're doing any surface mount soldering of components. The power supply is equally handy with adjustable voltages to test your components before and after soldering, before adding heat shrink or covers and finding out you made a mistake. There are also interchangeable tip types for different applications, and I will go over tips and tip care in a later tutorial. There are also a handful of battery options for field work that I have in my to-go kits. If you're regularly fixing customs like I do, a broken cord for your gig, or quick fixing remote control vehicles so your day isn't spoiled by a simple wire break. Heat gun. From simple on-off models and adjustable temperature and blower settings and battery options. Heat guns are useful for many household projects, but specifically when it comes to soldering for heating heat shrink tubing. Adjustable models can vary in range from 120 degrees to 1200 degrees Fahrenheit or 50 degrees 650 degrees Celsius. The higher temperature settings and blower speeds can draw 1250 to 1800 watts. A 15 amp breaker is rated at 1800 watts. They frequently come with multiple tip options and will require a little trial and error what works best for you. I also have several battery models in my Go Kit for field repairs. Seven, glue guns. Glue guns are versatile and useful for tacking down work, securing wires to workpieces, and makeshift strain relief. There are several different types and colors of glue for different applications, and you'll want to research these different types depending on your application. I also have battery models for my field repair kit. Work positioning. Helping hands, octopus, clothespins, binder clips, and tape. A pair of helping hands or octopus is a huge help. It'll allow you to solder your work while reducing the risk of burns to your fingers. It'll hold your work steady and allow you to hold the iron tip to heat up the metal so you can evenly apply solder. Nine, hand tools. Wire strippers, pliers, sprue cutters or mini flush cutters, tweezers, forceps, some sort of blade, solder sucker, and screwdrivers. You'll need some hand tools, and I recommend at minimum you'll want a decent pair of wire strippers, ranging anywhere from 30 AWG to 10 AWG. You can also get a set of automatic strippers if you're doing a large volume of wire. Something to cut wire, and I really like sprue cutters as mini flush cutters. It cuts smaller gauge wire, but is also great at cutting the end off zip ties flush, so it won't leave the little pointed end sticking out that it inevitably scratch you. I also recommend a pair of forceps. Great for grabbing small wire ends from difficult to reach places. A small razor blade or X-Acto knife is also in my standard daily kit. Can be used to cut open heat shrink, strip insulation from tiny gauge wire, and cut tape cleanly. If you'll be doing any type of SMD, surface mount, you'll need a set of ESD safe tweezers. At minimum, a straight and a curved tip. There are also specialty tweezers that hold electrical components. A solder sucker to extract solder when you've got to redo a splice or you've got a decent glob on a circuit board. This is a small manual pump that you will use to pull molten solder off your work pieces. A set of small flat and Phillips screwdrivers to tighten wire into Phoenix and other crimp style terminals. Tenth, desoldering. Common methods are to use a suction pump or solder wick, which is abraded copper. If you're doing frequent rebuilds, you'll want to look into a desoldering pump, which both heats and sucks to remove solder. (11) Crimpers. Crimpers and extractors. Depending on what you're creating and what quick connects will be needed. Examples that I use are Molex, JST, and Samtec. One other that I have in my toolkit is ferrule crimpers and some ferrules. You'll want to use these anytime you need to put stranded wire into Phoenix or similar screw type terminals. You'll also want some type of extractors. In a pinch, a safety pin or similar can be used, but most manufacturers have a removal tool for their pins. You'll want to be careful not to break off the wings that hold the pins into the various sockets. (12) Parts, including heat shrink, ferrules, crimp terminals, screws, zip ties, flux, and alcohol wipes. Lastly, you'll need parts to finish your soldering project. Heat shrink to protect your joints, ferrules and crimp terminals to attach to power, and zip ties to mount. These will all be used in later videos, and I hope to see you there. If you're interested in purchasing any of the items that I use, there will also be a link to my Amazon store.